working with Heather for over 5 years now. Over 4 years now. As a UX product manager at BioRapt. So very excited to see her presentation tonight. You're in great hands. She's an expert in her field. Had a lot of great experience in working with technical and non-technical audiences. Has worked in the UX industry, helping us to bring usability and better interfaces to BioRapt. So without further ado, Heather.
Hi, Al. Yeah, no, I'm good. I mean, it wouldn't be Drupal nights without like a second of technical difficulties. It's all good. So for the record, I tested this before and it worked perfectly. It happened. All right, so if I need to move the microphone, if someone like move at me. Oh, you want me to stand still?
No, just on either there or in front of the screen a little. Is that you need to change the sync on that monitor as well?
It was working fine before.
Live troubleshooting.
Yeah, live troubleshooting, it's great. All right, now I need to actually be behind. I need to stand still, y'all. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about communicating with non-technical stakeholders, and if that blinks one more time, we're good. Okay, what's the setting?
Under display, system preferences.
First I need to get control of my mouse.
Cursor.
Again, I swear this worked before. Displays.
Is it resolution there?
Can't see what it is.
Oh, refresh rate?
For developer now?
Is that what it was? Refresh rate?
Resolution. Is there a see this where it says defaults?
I don't know where my mouse is. There it
Check
is.
it out
Hold
on
on,
the
how
screen,
to get over
Doesn't it just
there.
I think it's about scale. Yeah.
I lost my
yeah.
cursor.
Scale.
Yeah, it's scaled. Three developers walk into a presentation. Requirements weren't clear. So you have to make that up.
Okay, first we need to mess with the arrangement, because that's the problem with keep losing the cursor. So, okay, you found the cursor. All right, who's got jokes? Knock knock.
Who there?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, alright, I think we should be.
Yes, scale 720.
So you know, today I was having a great day, except for a pussy cat. Someone say,
What's new with the cat?
thank you. I never said I had good jokes.
Do you want to hear a joke about construction?
Sure.
I'm working on it. Walk away from it.
Do we have anyone here new tonight from Drupal Nights? Two newbies. Okay.
So when do we move this? Alright.
Awesome.
Just don't touch it, just use the title slide.
Sure. I mean, I could. All right, so today we're talking about communicating with non-technical stakeholders, And I actually have a huge portion of my wonderful team, both technical and non-technical here today. So if I say something stupid, they'll remind me of it for the rest of my life. So who am I? I am Heather Staudt. I am a UX product manager at BioRaft, which roughly means that I help figure out what we should be building to help our customers curse and cry as least possible. I have my master's in human factors and information design at Bentley, from Bentley, which is just a fancy way of saying I help do the thing that I do. And I was co-organizer of the Boston Service Jam in 2014. I'm gonna slow down talking a little bit now. All right, so about BioRaft, we co-sponsor Drupal Nights and the Boston Drupal Meetup, and we work with EHS professionals to help them be a hero in the research community, building software to bring simplicity and clarity. We help minimize lab risk management.
What's EHS?
Environmental health and safety. So the people who are making sure that you don't accidentally blow yourself up by being stupid. So what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to start with some operational definitions. I think operational definitions are really important so that everyone is working from the same playing field. Why this conversation is important, the things I, as a non-technical person, wish that you, the technical people, knew, and then things that you, the technical people, wish that I, the non-technical people, knew. So this is going to be much more communication style or conversation style than like me just talking at you. So if you have something to add, just like wave at me, add things. This topic really came up as a topic at branching off of a D for D talk I did a couple years ago on whether or not designers need to know how to code. And the answer to that was a definite, it depends on who you're working with. So the real takeaway from that was that coding makes it easier to communicate, but people who code can also communicate with non-coders. So, what do I mean when I say non-technical? Someone who has significantly less expertise in the thing that you're talking about than you do. So, in this case, we can be talking about code. This morning, I was trying to explain something about Jira, and I knew what I was talking about, and they didn't know what I was talking about because I spent way too much time fiddling about configuring Jira. So at that point, I was the technical person, and they were the non-technical people. So literally, you can be wearing either hat at any given moment. It's just a question of what you're actually talking about. And so the people who have significantly less expertise, that doesn't mean they have zero expertise. They might have a foundation for you to build on and be like, okay, so you know this thing at level 3, we're gonna take it up to level 7. Or they might be at 0 and you might be at 10, and it's a different conversation. And then the question is, what do I mean by stakeholder? This is someone who has a say in how the project turns out, either with requirements or funding. They can make your life easier or harder, depending on how the conversations go. So why is this important? Communicating is good. Communicating smoothly and efficiently, it's better. And we're all working on the same team for the same goals, even if from different angles. Everyone wants to do good work. Everyone wants good work to be done. And sometimes it's really easy to lose sight of that. But if you step back and remember, wait, we're just trying to do good things, makes life a lot easier. It also makes it so that you can set and adjust the expectations as they should be, because life happens, things change. So, some things that I wish that you know. I really attempt to communicate in your language. But sometimes I'm not so good at it. Especially when you're switching from an older version of something to a newer version of something, and they change names on you, and they take the generic terms. Like, come on, I was using entities as the thingamabobs, you know? And then suddenly entities became a thing. talking about permissions versus roles, and it's like, well, I need this person to see that button and be able to click it. I need this person to not see that button and be able to click it. But sometimes it's really easy for me to come in and be like, okay, we need a new permission. And I sound confident as anything, and so, okay, someone builds a new permission, and really I meant role. And so, when I sound unsure, people ask me questions. When I sound sure, they don't, and sometimes things get knocked up. And then content types? Huh? Oh, okay, I'm kind of lost at content types. And so it's making sure that if there is some potential ambiguity, you're clarifying it. It's like, okay, Heather, do you really mean a permission, or do you mean something completely different? What is the end goal here? And so when people nicely ask me questions, I happily answer them. You've got to really know your audience. So I'm sure any of my team knows when I'm faking I know what I'm talking about. So it makes it a little bit easier. We've all been working together for years at this point. I think everyone's been here for at least 1+ years. So it makes it a lot easier. And so you have to think about, so what's the technical expertise? Like what level is this person at? Do they just, like, did they hear that Drupal is a thing once, maybe? Or did they used to code in Drupal, back in the 4.6 days, so they're still out of it, but they have that foundation to build on. What are you trying to accomplish with the conversation? Are you trying to tell someone everything's great, we're awesome? Are you trying to get clarification on some requirements? Are you trying to say, so that thing that I said was going to be super easy? It done blew up on me. What should we do now? And so, of course, you're going to approach those conversations differently. And so when you're trying to explain, does this relate to something that the person you're talking to already understands? I've had people talk to me about driving and about crochet and about puzzles and Doctor Who, and metaphors are great. My team knows what speaks to me, and so then they can translate. Sometimes you also just need to draw a picture, or I will literally move around in a room for different workflow states. Like, okay, start here, and then we go here, and then we go there, and so it's just, it's knowing the different communication styles. But, that being said, I would rather get bad news than no news at all. So radio silence breaks my heart. Because if you're telling me that there's bad news, I might be able to remove some of the sticking points. So if the problem is, hey, there's this one little fiddly bit that I can't get to work, and I'm like, you know what? That was a feature that was a nice to have. Like, stop smacking your head on that and move on to the next thing. Ta-da! Problem solved. Head smacked less. No more Band-Aids. Awesome. And as much as I have my preferred communication methods and the most effective methods for talking to me, if you would rather type at me, type at me. If you would rather email me, I'll get it. If you want to hop on a quick call, that works too. I mean, I know that depending on who I'm trying to get what information from on the team, at what time of day, there are different methods. And so that's, again, the knowing your audience going both ways. I also promise, pinky swear, I'm not trying to babysit. Like, I'm not trying to just nag you and be like, well, why isn't it done yet? Like, if I'm asking for a status update, that means that someone's probably asking me for a status update on the project that I'm running. And so when I can say, oh, okay, so we encountered a problem, but this is what we're doing to fix it, that is way better than, I'll get back to you on that. So I would much rather be armed with bad news than no news. So when I do get those updates, what am I trying to figure out? Ultimately, is the project on track? Did something come up? A lot of us are working in, moving into Jubilee. New things are happening. What gremlins popped up? And is there anything new to consider? Did a new module become stable? Is there a new method that you were reading about that might make everything better or worse? Is performance suddenly taking a hit? Are the requirements that were totally clear when we talked about it at the beginning of the project still totally clear? Do they still make sense? Or did you, roll up your sleeves, get in there, and suddenly you're like, Heather, what on earth are you talking about? Like, why would I do this? And about half the time when my team comes to me, it's like, what? It's like, oh yeah, that was an accident. It just sort of stuck its way in there. You're totally right, that makes no sense. And other times, like, okay, let's step back, take a look at the big picture, and I can explain how this makes sense. Again, as long as you ask me nicely, I'm willing to answer just about any question. And then, of course, the thing that everyone really, really, really wants to know, how close is the project to go? Now, I understand you don't have a crystal ball. You do have a crystal ball, you didn't tell me, I'm going to be really angry. Just say it. So, it's a guess. It's absolutely a guess. There are gremlins that could pop up at the last second. You could think that you're almost there and then everything breaks. I get it. But best guess. How close to done is the project? So now I want to turn it around a little bit. For anyone who sits in a non-technical role or a less technical role, it can also be that. What are some things that you wish the technical people you were talking to knew? All right, I'm gonna take that to mean that I pretty much covered it. So, what do you all wish that I knew? And I have some guesses after working with my team for a little while, but heads up, I'm gonna do that thing where I ask you after I finish talking me. So, warning. Hi, Jen.
One thing that we want non-technical people to know, I would say, just like understanding the flow of work sometimes is like a lot of nothing happening, then a lot of things happening, and then sometimes it feels like things sometimes are like slowed down by like too many check-ins on the nothing, and then not enough communication on the times when things happen.
Right, so one of the things that I'm guessing is sometimes simplifying is just not worth it. Like, okay, Heather, you're at a 2 on this topic. I'm trying to explain an 8, but it's a very small 8. I can take time to sit there and explain and figure out which metaphor is going to work for you today or which method is going to work for you today, but I could just do it. I could just do it. And I can just tell you that everything's fine or everything's not fine and just move on and do it. And sometimes things get lost in translation. Has anyone ever played that game where you put a sentence into Google Translate and you pick a random language and you pick another random language and another random language and another, and then eventually you loop back to English or whatever language you started with and it makes no sense? Has anyone else done that? Okay, thank you. I was getting some blank stares there for a second. So sometimes trying to simplify just means it doesn't make sense anymore. And also then just figuring out which pieces take time. Which piece is getting the big blank glassy stare. Well, again, sometimes it's just not worth it. And also, I turn to the technical folks because they know things that I don't. Like they were brought onto the team, do things that I don't know how to do. So, I'm guessing sometimes you want to just do the things that I don't know how to do instead of explaining to me what the things that I don't know how to do are. Is this resonating? Yeah? Head nods? Head nods? Awesome. Sometimes, you understand, project's almost done. Like, the finish point is within sight, can touch it, not right there. So Heather, shut up and go away. It's kind of what Jim was saying. You know, there's the ebb and the flow, and there's the good times to talk, and there's the not as good times to talk, and then there's the blah blah blah, not listening to you times to talk, and I get that. There's also the, okay, I've been working on this problem, I'm almost there. And then, you know, a day later, but this time I'm really almost there, I promise, I'm almost there. And switching costs are expensive. Like, if you're in the flow, you don't want to get out of the flow. Just tell me, yeah, I was going well, and now you interrupted another. So, then, do we have anything else? Dan?
So one of the things I was going to say is sometimes when you come to somebody and you don't necessarily have the technical expertise and you ask for something specific, say, give all of these people this permission interval, really what you're after is give everyone this sort of classification. Anyone who logs in like this sort of permission or this role.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we'll take what you're saying exactly at face value. Hey, give these 200 people this exact permission, when really that's not the end goal. And sometimes coming in with the user level story is more helpful. It gets more accurately what you wanted to cover, but not necessarily what you had asked for.
Yeah, sometimes trying to sound too smart works against us. Yeah, Jim?
Yeah, I feel like I find that situation a lot. It's almost like describing the problem more than communicating the solution is like really helpful, because sometimes the solution that's communicated isn't always the best solution for that given problem. So it's nice to brainstorm together.
Yeah, right?
I have a good example of that. Just this morning, I had a request to change a label on something, and from the looks of it, it was just a typo. But the label was actually the units of measurement, and they mean two very different things. It would be like the difference between, say, inches and meters. And so I started to look into that and say, oh, there's more to this that we need to look into.
Yep. Yeah, we had another issue recently where it was something that looked like a typo, and we realized it was actually just a foundational issue. So something that was supposed to be a 20-minute fix. So we this is gonna take a couple weeks. Do you still want us to continue? And so we were really grateful that the person came to us and was like, this doesn't seem right, because that meant that the product team was able to look at our priorities and be like, look, no, we can't be spending 2 weeks on this right now. It's a bang for buck issue. So, yeah. Thanks, Ray. Yeah, Benji?
Some things have to be done right for long-term payoff, even though it's not what the client is currently clamoring for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and oftentimes our non-technical, the non-technical folks on our team are then interfacing directly with our customers and figuring out that whole balance. So that's when we go from being the non-technical folks in the conversation to the technical folks. Yeah, feel that. Hi, Carl.
For
probably 75% of what I do, I live in either of two states. It would be done if I knew what the heck was going on, or I don't know what the heck is going on, so I can't describe it to you.
Yeah. And some of that definitely comes down to building trust with your team, with your non-technical stakeholders, because I know when Carl says, I'm working on it, but I don't know what's going on, he's working on it. He just doesn't know what's going on yet, because it's a hard problem, and we wouldn't give it to him if it wasn't a hard problem, you know? So the trust is definitely a big piece of it as well. Hey, Justin.
Hello. So don't tell anyone because this is a secret. But sometimes I might say to you that I'm at somewhere that I'm not, further than where I'm actually at, to encourage myself to work harder and more focused, and because I don't want to disappoint you. Then the next day, when I should probably be done, if I was actually at where I said I was at, I'm not where I said I was at because something came up that made
Just
we
keep
can
your guard
fix
down. This is a safe space, y'all. Like.
My name is Steven.
Retitled as group therapy session.
It's been 10 years since I wrote anything.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things that I was thinking about with the things that people wish I knew is we all take a lot of pride in our work, and sometimes admitting that we don't know what we're doing, even though it feels like we should, is hard. But I would rather know that if you hit that point of, I don't know what I'm doing. I regularly feel like that dog that's sitting at a computer. Like, you'll know that meme that I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna go and do it. Hope for the best. The other thing that I didn't put in here is sometimes life happens. Like, I don't know, the dog threw up on the carpet, and then the wife broke her ankle, and then the roof started leaking, and like, life happens too. And I mean, that's definitely, I know your audience to know how much you should tell them. My team is not every team.
Mama just slapped me back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes we try to look like we know what we're talking about, and by doing so, we don't find out what we don't know. And it's better to
Light a candle,
it's
then curse the darkness.
it's better to know that you don't know what you're talking about than to pretend like you do and never find out.
Mm-hmm.
On both sides, technical and non-technical. So maybe questions are good from both sides.
Yeah. I know, I realized that sometimes I was sounding like I knew what I was talking about way more than I did. And so that's when I started using thingamadoo, whatchamacallit, fiddly bits. Because then everyone knew that I didn't know the right term. I was just trying to communicate the end goal. Because if I said they needed permission, the assumption was that they needed a permission. But sometimes I could use real English too. Sometimes I could say things like they need to be able to. That's not as much fun. But sometimes I'll be talking to one developer while I'm working on requirements for a card that someone else is possibly going to end up working on. And they'll tell me, okay, so what you need is a form alter to do you lost me at buzzword, we go there. And so I'll put that information in, but I'll say, says this developer. So they'll know that I'm not the one who's making those words, so that it's a little bit clearer. Like, first of all, if you don't understand those words, don't ask Heather. Ask whoever the developer is who's cited there. And second of all, then we all know sort of how we speak, so we can figure out what it really means. Anyone else? We can continue doing therapy, yeah, right?
There is one tough part of that, and that's where we have overloaded words that have different meanings for us than they do for you.
Permissions.
Permissions is an example. I think we both think we know what we're talking about, but neither of us knows what the other one is talking about. So we have to watch out for those.
The thing I'm gonna do so that they can do whatchamacallit. Anything else from therapy with Heather?
Maybe we can turn our English into German and just find multiple words to make a single word.
9.
Love me some Trash Bandit.
So I work mostly remotely with my customers, and I find that verbal language is where the biggest problem is. And that getting to a visual communication usually resolves a lot of those problems, where I could get off a conversation with someone for 20 minutes that we both thought we were successful, but the language and the terminology was the big problem. But if we get to a visual point together, that solves a lot of the issues.
Yeah.
Show me what you mean, show me what you want, show me what your struggle is, and then I understand it better. We don't have to worry about the words that we're using.
There's a flip side to that too, though, from the non-technical point of view. If you have a client asking for something that maybe isn't part of that long-term goal, they sometimes need to see part of it to understand it. So as much as we all want to tear our own eyes out looking at it, sometimes we need to show them part of it and invest a little bit of time to save a lot of miscommunication back and forth in the long run. So there's both sides of that one as well.
The day that I realized that sticky notes and Sharpies were an effective communication method was life-changing. If I learned nothing else in grad school, it's that sticky notes and Sharpies are amazing. And also you should never use Sharpies on the whiteboard. Done. But, yeah, Reggie?
So what are the basic things that non-technical people have trouble getting across are bug reports. And I don't know how many times I've said, instead of describing the page in your own words, just give me the URL and tell me the steps you went through and copy and paste the error message instead of just telling me that it didn't work.
Plus 100, nice one.
It didn't work, and that's it. More than that.
But yeah, definitely a URL to accompany the screenshot, super handy. And a copy and paste of the error message along with the screenshot of the error message. Oh, I want to like bake a cake and like give it to that person. Just like, thank you so much. I love copy and pasted things.
No, really, Kathy loves copy and pasted things.
I found that out, I went on YouTube and there was an error. And it said, hey, copy and paste this error. Don't take a screenshot of it. Our developers really like it when we copy and paste things. You know what? We do. It's really handy not to have to look at a screenshot and type those characters for the next 8 minutes while you're trying to figure out exactly what their error was.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I guess if there's multiple environments that it can be in, you want to know that too. If there's any different configurations, those would also be useful. True.
Yeah, I'd say that stuff is all gravy. I mean, browsers and like that's gravy. I think URL, error message, then screenshot. We get those three.
The URL that I can click on instead of having to type it from the screenshot.
Exactly.
Now you guys are just going crazy.
Spoiled.
I mean, some days you just gotta shoot from the moon. I feel you.
Doesn't even need a description of the problem. Just URL, error message, screenshot.
So wait, I have a serious dilemma here. Do we tell them why we want them to cut and paste the error message? Or will it give them too much power if they know that all we're going to do with that error message is plug it into Google and get our jobs?
Maybe we should get our error messages to say copy and paste this.
Yeah.
Prefix that
Whenever
error
little
message
button
and
you
copy
have,
paste this error message, send it to me text.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No,
About
I think
$5
he's
for
got a
copy and
good
paste.
question. Like, do we tell people why we're asking them to do something?
yes.
For the most part, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you were to tell me to jump up and down 10 times, I'd say no. If you were to tell me why, I might do it.
Oh, Kathy, please come up with a good reason for Dan to jump up and down.
No.
Aww.
Yeah, I guess I'm afraid sometimes if I were to explain why I'm asking them to do something, I might be insulting them. They might think, well, why are you telling me that, Kathy? Like, of course I knew that already. Like I don't want to insult anybody by like explaining too much. And if they're super busy, maybe having to read a sentence of explanation will like push them over the edge, and they're like, I don't have time to read this sentence. Like I've got like 18 bazillion things happening. So like intellectually, I think giving a reason for requesting something is helpful for ensuring future compliance, because you're more likely to remember to do something if you understand the implication, like the repercussions of not doing it, right? But I also I don't want to frustrate or insult somebody I'm talking to either, and it's just kind of like.
It'd be really cool if we had a mechanism for creating links to extra information that the person could use.
Working with people can always be messy. You could tell somebody, hey, I need it for this reason, and 99% of people may be like, yeah, sure. And 1% of people could be like, nah, fuck that, and I don't have time for this, I'm busy, and they may be very angry with you. I don't think there's a way to please everybody, but asking somebody why you may need something and a general description is always going to be better than leaving them in the dark.
The person reporting it may also not have access to that information. Like a lot of times, I may get a report from a customer, and I need to pass it on to a developer. And yeah, it would be great if I could copy that error message, but I can't get into their computer, and I can't bother the customer and say, hey, can you copy and paste this and send it, even though you already reported this thing to us and you can't do your job because it doesn't work.
Yeah, how can they go back?
And to go back and be like, oh, can you copy that? So that's tricky too. Like if it's something I find in a test environment, I should copy it. That's just lazy.
I would also say it's partly how you word it, like you said. I'm just going to Google it. Just say it so I can research it better. You don't have to tell them how you're going to research it, or that you think you can interpret the Google results better. You don't have to say it that way. It's how you word it.
So you just got that code. Well, it's also not only Googling it, right? How much of the time is it you're looking for particular substrings out of that error message to phone into a particular part of the code base that they don't have access to?
You're grabbing your code base sometimes, so you don't have to explain that so much as just say, we want to research the issue better.
I just tell people, if you give me more data, I'll fix it faster and I won't charge you as much.
They're very compliant with you, aren't they?
What?
They're very compliant then, aren't they?
And they get that.
Yeah, it's speaking to the problem being solved as opposed to how to solve it. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that gets back to when I was talking about what I wish people knew. If you ask me a question nicely, I'll answer it. If you ask me a question not as nicely, you're gonna get a very different answer. I'll still answer it, just maybe not in a helpful way.
What's that box on the desk?
Uh-huh. Alrighty. Anything else for therapy with that?
Yeah, so when I was 5,
Okay, but really, I'm gonna get on a soapbox for a second, because I feel like any conversation about communication, any conversation about how to work with other people, especially given that September just ended and September is Mental Health Awareness Month. So if their communication style suddenly changes, check in on them. Like, we're all people first. Some of us feel like we're robots. Sometimes some of us want to be robots. Like, we're all people first. And so make sure you're checking in on people. And if you want resources and stuff, I can go off on that with a whole lot of coming out.
Resources that people are people?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Right?
And so that's been communicating with non-technical stakeholders, or therapy with Heather. So this slides will be up on Drupal Nights and probably the YouTube. Probably.
The video will be on YouTube, however, the first 2 slides may be a little blurry.
Thanks, folks.